Hi everyone and welcome back to a new Vlog Files. Today I have my wife Mandy with us. How are you, Mandy?
Hi everyone, I'm great, thank you.
That's good. And you are currently working on this Gorilla Legends arcade machine.
That's correct.
How's it going?
It's coming along really well. We've had a rusted power supply and a few tracks gone on the PCB.
Okay.
So what we've done is replaced the power supply with a reconditioned one, and it's going really well.
Excellent, excellent. That's good. Now, basically I'm asking you this because Mandy's now taken over our arcade and pinball business. It was both of us working on it for the last years, like I don't know how long. It's been almost 10 years, could have been longer. And Mandy's now taking over it solely. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so we have got a lot of work on. I did say that last week. We've got too much work on, and now that's all over to you, but we're wrapping up a few jobs. One job at the moment, and then there's another one coming a bit later on. And that's great, and Mandy is amazing. She can take care of everything herself, apart from some of the wiring stuff.
Yeah, some electronics I need to refer back to Joel.
Yeah, so I'll take care of, it's like 5 to 10% of the work. PCB works, taking off chips, replacing them, finding faults, diagnostics, all that kind of stuff's left to me. And all the painting, well, I don't know what I'm doing. So Mandy's a gun at that. So that's it. So why am I telling you guys this? Well, if Mandy now that Mandy has taken over, this allows me free time. And you know what that means? It means 2 videos a week. So if you want to thank anybody, don't thank me, thank Mandy for now giving me this free time to concentrate on Last Gamer. And with this time, it's pretty easy for me to do 2 videos a week. I will not be going to 3 or more. Definitely not. That's just burnout. I'll be definitely doing 2 videos a week.
Yep.
And I'm quite happy to do that. It's fun. I'm enjoying it. I think I've found my groove back and things are just looking up with Last Gamer, in my opinion. It's going great. And thanks, Mandy. Thanks for doing this. And I think everyone needs to thank you.
Well, we're all excited as a family because it gives us a bit of variety and gives a bit of direction. Most of all, we thrive on your enjoyment of doing everything. So it's a bit of a win-win for us as well.
That's good. Yeah. And people might not get it. We're a gaming family. Some people think, oh, this poor woman, but we are a gaming family, as you would have seen last week, Mandy playing the links. Yep. But it's not just the links. Mandy loves playing arcades, and she's right into the history of the games themselves. She'll ring up, people in Japan and order parts, and she knows the parts just as well as I do.
Oh, probably.
Yeah, probably. So that's how it is in our household. We'll probably do a video one day of, I always wanted to do this, of our life in the span of a week. And just
that'd be cool.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Really good.
So just to see how we live and function every day, and you'll think, oh, these people are crazy. But yeah, so that'd be quite good.
That would be really good.
So I'll let you keep going. Yes, you keep going, and I will go inside and we'll have a bit of fun. Well, we're currently in the arcade room. I thought it's quite fitting to answer this massive topic that I get questioned about all the time, and that is, how big is your electricity bill? And I thought, well, this is the best place to start because these machines probably consume the most electricity in my house. Maybe apart from a washing machine or a dryer, but they only run maybe half an hour or something like that. I don't know. Actually, I think they run about an hour and a half. And kettles take up an enormous amount of electricity, but they are only on for a short amount of time. Arcade machines can be played for hours, and people seem to think they take up an enormous amount of electricity, but that's actually not true. An arcade machine is simply a PCB, so printed circuit board, and it's just like a big motherboard and cartridge all in one. That's the easiest way to explain it to someone who's not really used to handling or working with an arcade machine. It's just basically one PCB that requires 5 volts and 12 volts from a power supply. Now that power supply obviously gets its voltage from your GPO, general purpose outlet, or as it's commonly known, a power point. The arcade machine gets its power from there, goes to the power supply, that changes it from AC voltage into DC voltage. And that uses, as I said, 5 volts, mainly 5 volts to run the board. The 12 volts usually runs amplifiers on that board for sound. So keep in mind, there's no separate amplifier inside the average arcade machine. Some have separate amplifiers like 720, a lot of Atari games, because of the sound, they wanted to really beef it up. Say Ninja Turtles, for example, has an amplifier built in onto the main PCB. The other thing that an arcade machine has to power, obviously, is the monitor. So the monitor takes up a little bit of voltage, but not that much. Not that much at all. And, well, a fluorescent light will usually be on the top as an attraction. That takes up next to nothing. I can assure you that the monitor and the power supply running the PCB would be almost equal to a normal TV, we'll say a CRT TV. So we're not looking at LCDs, plasmas, OLEDs, just looking at normal CRT, cathode ray tube TV, and say a Sega Genesis, Mega Drive, even a Super Nintendo. It's not going to be far off that kind of money. Now, back to the question, how much is your electricity bill?
I don't think it's any of your damn business.
Now, it kind of isn't anyone's business, but I'm happy to discuss it because people must be scratching their heads thinking it's going to cost something like a couple of $1,000s a week. First of all, I do not turn on all my arcade machines when I want to use one. If I want to use Space Harrier, if I want to play 720, they're the only machines that come on. I have a special switch that switches on areas of the room, which I'll talk about in the next coming vlogs. And I can switch on a bank of machines. Now, when I switch on that bank, I can then manually switch off machines I'm not using before I switch on that bank. And if I want to play Space Harrier, that's the only machine that'll come on. I'll use Space Harrier. Once I'm finished with it, I turn it off and that's it. The machines are not running 24/7, and the only reason the machines were on all at once for the room tour video was for simply that, for a room tour video. You know, the WWE guys came along. Of course, I'm going to have all the machines on, so when they come in, they can see they're all running and they can play them. And it's very rarely that I'll switch them all on. It might be maybe once or twice a year. And a special occasion, maybe it's, you know, one of the kids' birthdays and they have their friends come along and they want to come in the arcade room, then I'll switch it on then. That hasn't happened yet, but it is possible that that will happen down the track. A couple of months ago, Mandy cooked up a really nice meal, and Mandy said, how about we have this meal in the arcade room, kind of like, you know, going back into the 80s. We had 80s music pumping, the kids were dancing, we had the machines on, we had the disco lights and the glow lights on, and it was fantastic. We were here for probably an hour and a half. The kids were walking around playing the machines. It's a one-off thing. You know, yeah, there's almost 100 machines, and that's like switching on 100 Super Nintendos and 100 TVs. Of course, that's going to drain the energy, but it's a one-off. It's not that bad. So how much is my electricity bill? Well, this quarter, so it goes on a 3-month cycle, it was around $900. That's considered high for me, but we're doing other things. It's not just arcade machines. Keep in mind, I play a lot of games. So my Xbox One's on, or my PS4. I've got an OLED TV, and that doesn't consume much. I used to have plasmas, and they do consume a lot more. You know, somewhere in the range of 500, 600 watts, they do take up a lot more. My OLED TV, that's really hard to say, is just over 100. So you can run 5 of them for one plasma, you know. But that's just energy efficiency with technology. So that's it. Pinball machines, let's talk about those guys. They can take up quite a lot of power, but in rest mode, which means they're on, but they're not being used, because the flippers, they take up a lot of power. The solenoids that operate flippers or slingshots or anything, all the toys on the playfield, they take up an enormous amount of power because there's, you know, reaction times there. The solenoids require a lot of voltage to get moving, between 50 and 80 volts. That's kind of what they take up. So if you had all these pinballs behind me, there's 20 of them. If I had them running for an hour and every one of them are being used by 20 people, that'd be a lot of electricity. But it's unlikely that's going to happen. As I said, maybe for a party, whatever. Unlikely that I'd have a party with that many people. It's just rare. So that's it. That's the electricity bill. Now, I will divert for a minute and talk about why my electricity bill is, I consider, still high. Well, that's because we're using machinery. When we repair arcade machines, Mandy uses different tools. Some of them use power. Electric circular saws, charging up batteries for a standard tool such as a cordless drill, what else is there? A grinder, things like that. That requires power to obviously charge the batteries, and Mandy's working there now. You know, and she works on the machines between the times of around 8:30, 9 o'clock to about 4 o'clock, sometimes 5 o'clock, sometimes even later. And she's constantly using different machines, except for when she's painting. But she does use a spray gun. That doesn't require a lot. Then I use a lot of machines when I'm fixing up cars. Like, you know, there's been times when I've had to completely pull down a car and repair a panel. You know, welding, arc welding, that takes up a bit of power. And obviously different things, you know, air compressors. You know, there's a big motor on an air compressor that requires a lot of voltage, 15 amps, and that's running kind of half a day when I'm spraying a car. And it's a fairly big industrial air compressor. I can also use air compressors for operating tools, air-powered tools, and this all adds up, and that's why sometimes our bill might be higher than normal. But there you go, that's a look at something that's really kept private, but I thought I'd also answer that question to people who must be thinking, gee, that'd cost a lot of money to run, but it's really not. Again, with consoles, Luke and I, we play, you know, whatever, Xbox or PlayStation or Wii U, and we have 2 TVs running. We don't play every day. I'd like to, but just no time. And that's it, we just use those TVs. When we're in the retro room, we will use retro consoles, and believe it or not, they actually take up a lot less than these modern consoles, and that's just to do with power and all that type of thing. And then, yeah, CRTs, as I said, they don't cost that much to run. Electricity is more expensive these days. So that's another thing, and it's good that companies are thinking up new ways to lower the consumption of electricity or electrical items. Take this room, for example, there is 50 downlights currently on now. Now I can switch off sections. Well, actually there's 75 all up, but I've only got the 50 on now in the kind of lower part of the room. And that is quite a lot of electricity being pumped out for really only using a small section of the room. So I'm just using that as an example. Now I'm pretty sure these LED downlights are 2 watts per light. So basically we've got 100 watts pumping at the moment. And you know, that's, well, that can be high, but 100 watts is probably the average arcade machine. So lights are fairly energy efficient now that they're LED. If you went to the old style light bulb, you would find that it would take up an enormous amount of energy compared to a new LED. And again, technology. So that's it. I hope I've answered questions about how much my electricity bill is, how much energy I'm using. I really don't use a lot of energy. I'll be honest, although I've got all this, you know, video game and technology and all this kind of crazy stuff on the back part of my house, if we're only using one machine, that's all we're going to be turning on. You know, I won't leave a machine running next to me just for the ambience, to pretend I'm in an arcade. It just doesn't work like that. In the regular part of the house, so my living part of the house, we don't use much energy at all. We have a microwave, and I think we've used it twice in the last 2 years. Not that takes up much. I'm trying to think what else. Really, a camera, charging batteries for the camera, I'm not toying around a lot with my radio controlled cars. They don't take up much to just charge a 7.2 volt battery or 8.4, that's the other voltage. They don't take up that much electricity. My main TV, that doesn't take up a lot of electricity. That's a 70 centimeter sharp. That's pretty energy efficient. That's an LCD. And my cinema room, the projector. So it's an amp, and the projector itself, look, I haven't really gone into it. I know it doesn't take up that much. And really, I use that maybe once, sometimes twice a week, but definitely once. Every Saturday night we watch a movie, usually James Bond, and it's 2 hours and you're done. So 2 hours out of a whole week, it's not that much. I do also have a good friend, Mick, who's an A-grade electrician. I was about to say technician. Electrician, he is a technician as well. And he's done a clamp test on my power board to see what's going on there, like if the voltages are, kind of killing it outside the street. We've had all the arcade machines and he said, it's not really breaking a sweat. So it's not as bad as you think. If you go to an industrial complex that runs 100 or 2 or 300 arcade machines, yeah, they're going to have bigger power boards because they are going to take up a lot of energy, especially when you've got 200 or 300 people in the place playing them at once. And that's where, as I said, that's where the power gets drawn. I hope I've made myself clear. I'm not by any means an expert on energy efficiency or how it works with, say, an average arcade machine. I just know that they don't take up that much. I've had arcades for a long time, I will tell you that. I've had arcade machines, I think since 1989, I had my first arcade machine, and I'd have it at home, right? So I'm at home, and my mother didn't really notice a difference in my power bill. Now, the other question I keep getting is, where did you buy that Daytona car? Now, for those who may not have seen it, because it is on the end of the room tour video, I show a real life Daytona car. And next week we're gonna have a look at how it got made, why I made it, and is it all worth it? Until next time, bye for now.